Muchachos y muchachas, you are planning a get-together with all of your friends. They're going to come over to your house. Perhaps you're throwing a game night or a movie night. You're going to throw some appetizers together, maybe one or two casseroles, bake some desserts, and you are so excited. You're anticipating your friends. You're going to have such a fun night. It's going to be nothing but good, clean fun, right? And as the night approaches, you're so excited. You hear your friends parking outside, approaching your house. They're giggling. They're excited too. And so you're waiting outside at the doorstep with a clipboard full of NDAs. Now, that doesn't sound right now, does it? But that is what Diddy did. Oh, yes. He had a standard NDA that was pretty much given, I would imagine, to any new affiliate, any new associate, anybody who was entering his circle, who was, I guess, completing a transaction, who was going to a party, or perhaps even going to a freak off. Oh, yes. And I've got the NDA right in front of me. You guys have to see this stuff because this is a very, very paranoid document. The language, the restrictions that are being used. I mean, this guy was paranoid. So you can read it at the top here, Standard Combs NDA. And of course, this looks like a photocopy. And maybe this text was actually added at the very top. I do see some whiteout right around right here. This was obtained by TMZ. Take it for what it is. But I mean, this would make sense. This, I'm just going to say, in context to what we're seeing now, you know, and us wondering why nobody has ever come out about these types of details before. It would make sense why they wouldn't, especially with such strong, intricate legal jargon, legalese that would protect Diddy from, you know, anybody going out to the public with whatever details they want. So again, this is obtained by TMZ, and to me, in my personal opinion, this would make sense. All of this would make sense why you haven't heard any whistleblowers, you know, before this year or as recent as last year. So right here, it is talking about Sean Diddy Combs, aka Puff Daddy, the artist. Okay, he's being defined as the artist, is a highly valued. All efforts will be made to maintain confidentiality with respect to all information and other material of any kind, including without limitation terms, conditions, existence of this agreement concerning and are related to directly or indirectly artists and or any person, corporation, or entity related to, affiliated, or associated with. So basically, okay, I know this is a lot of legalese. I'm going to try to simplify it for you. So this is this front part is basically saying any information. You go to have some tea and cookies with Diddy, and whatever your conversation consists of, that's all information. You know, you go to the grocery store with Diddy and you talk about your favorite, you know, bag of chips or whatever. All information, every single piece, every single morsel of information that is shared between you and Diddy, or that you receive from Diddy, is confidential information. Material of any kind. We're going to go into that a little bit more specifically here. So it also is talking about, it's not just Diddy that is protected or that you need to think about when you're, you know, taking this information and talking about it. It's Diddy, his family, his associates, his friends. It says here, any present fiancés, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, and business associates of, you know, Diddy's associates, basically his little orbit. Whoever orbits Diddy, you know, his friends, his family, their mamas and daddies and, you know, friends of whatever. You basically can't take any of that information out of orbit. That's how again, guys, this is a very paranoid document. Okay. So then it goes into, I'm just going to kind of fast forward and paraphrase as I go. The information that they're basically talking about is the artist, which is Diddy. business activities, entertainment activities, financial affairs, and or personal life, and all such information shall be deemed confidential, private, secret, and sensitive, and kept by you as confidential unless artist, who is Diddy, otherwise advises you in writing in artist's sole discretion any and all information described in paragraph A, including without limitation pictures, recordings, documents, property, merchandise, and any other information related to Diddy and our personal, professional, and or other, it kind of goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So whether prepared or on behalf of you or otherwise coming into your possession is and shall remain artist's sole and exclusive property. So it talks about this over and over again. This is like maybe the first time. It's going to come a second time where it's talking about any piece of information that, it's basically obtained by you by observation, or it will go into recordings and pictures and books and interviews and things like this. Like absolutely any piece of information that gets transformed as like a observable piece of matter, I guess, is actually his property. And it says it again here. So then it goes into basically anything that you observe, his appearance, his performance, his rehearsal, activities, or during or related to any service or activity performed by the artist or any artist parties. Okay. So that's pretty broad, right? So it's talking about any activity, anything he does, anything he's rehearsing, anything he does, anything that you observe that he's doing. You cannot disseminate this information. This is so tight-lipped. No wonder so many people did not, come forward about him. And a lot of people, they want to be tough on the internet and say, well, that would just save a lot of lives. And, that would have saved a lot of heartbreak and all these things. And I guarantee you, these people online who talk a big talk and act as if they would have gone a different route, they also don't empathize with the fact that we have social media very different today. We have information circulation very different today than it was in the 90s, which a lot of these incidents happened in the 90s and the early 2000s, right? And people seem to completely forget that. It's like we have amnesia about that. So now we have the power of circulating information, and we have the power of so many people being able to share this stuff and share these incidents where it can become viral and it can become, a big thing, and it can blossom into justice perhaps, right? And so people who are talking big talks and acting as big and bad as if they would have done something differently, I guarantee you, back in the 90s when we didn't have, the internet as widely as we do, or in the early thousands, right? The way that we have information circulation, I guarantee you that you would not have the boldness to come forward the way that these people now do. It's just my personal opinion. Okay, so it goes into specifics about the acknowledger of this NDA. So that would be the person who signs this NDA, acknowledges the language and the terms in this NDA, basically specifies that they will not authorize, or they're not authorized to facilitate any third party written consent without, Diddy basically saying okay, or give any interviews, write or prepare, assist the preparation of any books, articles, commentary, things like this, right? Any remarks, it says right there, that's not highlighted. Any media, including without limitation, confirming or denying confidential information related to, again, interviews, books, articles, remarks, columns. Okay. And as we read a little further, it actually does talk about, not going on the internet via disseminating this information on Twitter, on Instagram, on, all these little apps that we use every day. So again, this is it's my personal opinion that this is very paranoid language, very paranoid, types of parameters that their legal jargon is keeping this acknowledger under. This part especially is really interesting to me. It says, you shall not, and shall not authorize or facilitate any third party to use and or reference artist who is Diddy or Diddy's parties, anybody who's associated with him or identity, including your relationship with the artist. Okay. So you, Joe Smith or Jane Smith, you cannot go out on an interview and confirm your relationship with Diddy, whether it be that you were just his friend or you were, a paid associate of some kind. You can't do any of that. You can't do any of that. And it specifies right here, any respect to any transaction, sale of goods, or artist and or artist parties, use or disclose to disseminate, confirm, or directly, indirectly to, upon, cause injury to reputation, character, blah, 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 blah. I think that part especially is really, really, really specific and interesting because it's talking about transactions. It's talking about the sale of goods. It's talking about disparaging and defaming character. In doing so, that is a very specific scenario. And if you guys know what scenario I'm talking about, please list it in the comments. But I think that specifically is very interesting because we're not talking about just, particular products, we're talking about particular substances. This could cover substances, sale of goods, or other solicitations. Okay, other solicitations, relationship to the artist. So think about that. That's just what's coming to my head right now. So then he goes into, you can disseminate this information on social media, blah, blah, blah. The types of media, photographs, videotapes, films, audio tapes, any other recorded sound or image or any type of materials, right? And it basically says that, and then it mentions data, documents, records, things like this, that this is his property. Breach or threaten to breach paragraph 1. And the artist parties would suffer immediate irreparable harm and an injury which would not adequately be compensated and by award of monetary damage. So again, very paranoid language that any Jane Doe, John Doe, Jane Smith can, take an experience from Diddy's interaction or whatever. And immediately, if she doesn't have written permission by Diddy, and she disseminates that information, let's say in a blog, for example, she wouldn't have the permission. So immediately to them, in their eyes, this is disparaging and defaming to P. Diddy's character, which is, again, just very immediately, it's very setting up the acknowledger for failure in any case, in any scenario that they would take that information and pretty much talk about it to the public. And Diddy doesn't want to see any of this information leak in his lifetime because it is actually clued in on the term of this agreement. It says in this part 3 right here, the term of this agreement and duty to keep all information confidential and not use prohibited material shall commence on the first date above. So basically when the acknowledger of this NDA signs the NDA, when it's dated, and for the life of the artist, so all of Diddy's life, none of these violations can take place, information being disseminated, vlogs, articles, books, recordings, video, anything that in regards to Diddy's, who he is or whatever of him cannot happen. This is a term for all of his life. He for as long as he's living, you cannot do any of that, plus 20 years after that, or 70 years, whatever is longer. And listen, I understand the need for NDAs in certain scenarios, especially, intellectual property, company secrets, the things that are being investigated, for instance, that can't leak unless, it's ready and ripe for the investigation to be published. Otherwise, the investigation is pretty much, folded. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that are right for NDAs. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to protecting the identity of a victim, for instance. But for everyday things like this, where you're having get-togethers and you're having parties and you have your guests sign NDAs, that you've got to be doing something crazy out there, crazy out there, that and it's specified in the language of this NDA that you don't want it coming out. I don't know, guys. You guys let me know what you think about this standard New York P. Diddy NDA. Is it pretty stringent? Is it pretty strict? I think it is. And I see why. I see why nobody would have come out, because, you know, not only would you have to face the repercussions of Diddy and, you know, what's rumored about what he would do to his adversaries, you know, so many different things, but also the legalese that protects him, that basically anything that you do that is against these terms, it becomes his property, it becomes his copyright, and, you know, he can go after you monetarily and really ruin your life. I understand why nobody would have come out. I mean, I'm just being human. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.